Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Critical Weight Theory. And this time we're going to look into the overlooked names, or one of the overlooked names, behind your favorite animated icons. And we're talking about a man you might not recognize by name, but if you've ever laughed at Donald Duck losing his temper, you may have seen his work. I'm talking about Jack Hanna, not the animal guy. That's Jack Hanna. Different guy, different spelling. This one is Hannah. This Jack Hanna was an animator, writer, and director who helped shape some of the most iconic moments in Disney's golden age of animation. And Jack Hanna was born on January 5th, 1913. He joined Walt Disney Productions in the 1930s, starting at the bottom, as so many animators did back then, as an in betweener. That's the job where you draw the transitional frames between key poses. Not glamorous, not easy, but he didn't stay there long. Soon enough, Hannah moved into story development, and by the 1940s, he became a director. That's where he really left his mark, especially in the Donald Duck universe. But he also had a hand in creating one of Disney's characters, too, that himself was an influential character. I'll get more into that later. So, over the years, Hannah directed more than 90 Disney shorts, and a huge number of them starred Donald Duck. He was instrumental in refining Donald's personality on screen, transforming him into the irritable, unlucky, but somehow still lovable character that generations have grown up with. And he didn't just work with Donald. Hannah also was behind the camera when Chip and Dale started pestering our favorite duck. He directed shorts featuring Goofy, and he introduced a fan favorite, Humphrey the Bear. So that's one of the main characters I was talking about earlier. It's been speculated that Yogi Bear may have been inspired by Humphrey, actually. Animated historian Leonard Maltin once said that Humphrey cartoons, under Hannah's direction, were, and I'm quoting now, belly laugh comedies that can hold their own against the best of MGM and Warner Brothers, end quote. One standout from, Mr. Hanna is T for 200, released in 1948. It's considered a classic Donald short with all the frustration, visual gags, and timing that defined Hannah's style. You could, even just mentioning Donald Duck, you can just imagine him getting excited, frustrated, hearing that Donald Duck, that voice. I'm not going to try to impersonate it because I've never been very good at doing the Donald Duck voice, to be honest. It's never really been my forte, unfortunately. It would be kind of nice to be able to just break out in a Donald Duck voice just randomly. And there's actually a horror movie from the 1980s. I don't actually offhand remember which director it was, but I believe it's one of those Italian giallo films, and there's a killer who goes around just constantly doing a Donald Duck voice, and that's really the only thing that sets the movie apart from other slasher movies is that the guy is doing a Donald Duck voice. So, I hope I'm not getting too sidetracked in that story, but I'm just saying that because it's an example that Donald Trump, Donald, I'm so used to saying Donald Trump, but Donald Duck, you know, his uh his influence is all over the place. He's even touched horror movie fans at one point. And by the late 1950s, Hanna left Disney, but he didn't walk away from animation. Instead, he helped shape the next generation. He co founded the character animation program at CalArts. That's the California Institute of the Arts. It's the same program that trained artists like, well, yeah, I'm not familiar with all of these, but there's Brad Bird, Tim Burton. That's the name that I know, and John Lasseter. You get the idea. If you've ever heard the term Cal Art style in animation discussions, Hanna helped plant those seeds, basically. So, despite all that, Jack Hanna never really became a household name. It doesn't help that, his name is going to get him confused with the animal expert. And that's another one of those unfortunate things. If you've got a name that sounds like somebody else's name, and that other person is already more famous than you are, it's gonna kind of get in the way of your name recognition a little bit. That's why so often people get stage names and whatnot. Not that Jack Hanna was ever under obligation to do that because he came first before the animal expert, but you get my point. You get it. This is also someone who I don't think sought the spotlight all that much, but his work, it's obviously baked into the DNA of 20th century American animation. In 1992, just 2 years before his death, he was named a Disney legend, which is an honor reserved for those who've made what Disney calls a significant impact on the Disney legacy. Jack Hanna died on June 11, 1994, but his influence is it's still waddling along in every frustrated quack and chaotic cartoon chase. And thanks for listening to this episode. If you liked this episode, leave a rating and share it with a fellow animation nerd, or just shout out a duck in appreciation. You know, the duck will maybe quack back at you. So I'm Wade, and I'll catch you next time. Maybe I'll have more stories from behind the scenes of, cartoons at some point. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I might do that. I've got other episode content as well, of course. But, sometimes I like to just go off the beaten path and walk where the ducks walk.